I want to make it very clear that Hillary Clinton is the political version of a prostitute. Her values don't exist. I don't even know what her values are because everything can be bought with Hillary Clinton.
More than 50% of young people in America get their news from social media. They are seeing short form videos, some of them totally made up, some of them not at all representing what they claim to be showing. And that's where they get their information.
Well, the unpopular former presidential candidate who lost both bids for the White House and blamed everyone from the deplorables to Russia for it, thinks the youths are too stupid to realize how great Israel really is. That's what she was saying at some conference she was at recently. And there is more from this embarrassing commentary. Why don't we take a look at that? And then we'll look at reality since Hillary Clinton pretends like she cares about it.
They were getting their information from social media, particularly TikTok. That is where they were learning about what happened on October 7th, what happened in the days, weeks, and months to follow. That's a serious problem. It's a serious problem for democracy, whether it's Israel or the United States, and it's a serious problem for our young people. When you would try to talk to them to engage in some kind of reasonable discussion, it was very difficult because they did not know history. They had very little context. And what they were being told on social media was not just one-sided, it was pure propaganda. And so when you think about how to tell Israel's story, and it's important, it's not just looking internally, it's looking externally, and particularly looking at young people, because, it's not just the usual suspects. It is a lot of young Jewish Americans who don't know the history and don't understand.
Oh, those are bad Jews. They're bad Jews because they don't believe the nonsense propaganda coming from a genocidal state that they disagree with, and that would be the foreign nation state of Israel. Those individuals, by the way, that she just decided to excoriate because they're not the proper type of Jews are heroes. They're amazing people because for all the grief that we here at TYT might get for being as critical of Israel as we are, I know and I have seen how Jews in this country are treated by members of their own families if they dare speak out against what Netanyahu and the Israeli government has been up to, not just over the last 2 years, but for decades now. So she says, we got to put things into context. I'm going to go ahead and still whine about TikTok, even though I know that Larry Ellison, the single largest donor to the IDF, purchased TikTok and has been engaged in a purge of anyone on that platform that dare speak out against Israel. But I'm still going to whine about TikTok, and I'm going to continue to pretend as though, the real problem here is misinformation and propaganda. These kids just don't know what they're doing. And she's really salty about the fact that, shockingly, she's teaching a course at Columbia, which reinforces the notion that colleges have become a scam, honestly. But she's teaching a course over at Columbia. And some of the students are asking her difficult questions. And what do you do when you were a pathetic politician who started off with correct opinions on what's happening in the Middle East, and then you got shellacked by the Israel lobby and then suddenly changed your mind? Especially when you started running for office. So let's talk a little bit about history. Hillary Clinton purports to like it. I love history. So one of my favorite books, and I make no secret about it, is The Israel Lobby, which was written by John Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt. And in it, it really does talk about, it's just as relevant today as it was when it was written in the early aughts. It's really about just how influential these lobbying groups really are. And they do cover Hillary Clinton and how she devolved as a human being as a result of the Israel lobby. So this is an excerpt from the book. Let's go ahead and read it. Hillary Clinton, whose support for Palestinian statehood in 1998 and public embrace of Suha Arafat, wife of Yasser Arafat, in 1999, provoked strong criticism from groups in the Israel lobby. So her big offense, if you're wondering what she said that upset them so much, and remember, this is as the Oslo Accord negotiations are taking place. She said at the time that it would be in the long-term interests of peace in the Middle East for there to be a state of Palestine, a functioning modern state that is on the same footing as other states, which I think is probably the least controversial thing I've heard in a long time from her mouth. But she didn't say that today. She said that back in the 1990s. Then she gets the backlash from the Israel lobby. And then suddenly Clinton became an ardent defender of Israel once she began running for office herself. And she now gets strong backing, including financial support from pro-Israel organizations and individuals. After Clinton appeared at a pro-Israel rally in July of 2006 and expressed strong support for Israel's highly destructive war against Lebanon, Helen Friedman, executive director of the hardline Americans for a Safe Israel, declared, "I thought her remarks were very good, especially in light of her history. And we can't forget her kiss to Suha." So I want to make it very clear that Hillary Clinton is the political version of a prostitute. Her values don't exist. I don't even know what her values are because everything can be bought with Hillary Clinton. I want to run for a Senate seat, so I'm going to go from advocating for a Palestinian state to getting down on my knees and pleasuring the Israel lobby so they give me the money that I want to run for office. And on top of that, I don't have to worry about them attacking me and making it a little more difficult for me to win the election. That's who Hillary Clinton is. Does she like that history? That's not a TikTok video. That's real life. Let's give you a little more real life here. So let's see what Israel has been up to. Because look, she's right. I want to make sure that people are fully informed about what Israel is up to. I don't want them to simply rely on short form videos on social media. So let me add to it by giving you a lengthier argument and some news about what's been going on lately. So let's start with the torture of Palestinian hostages and the individuals that they have detained over in Israel without any charges, any trial, meaning they are hostages. So with that in mind, let's take a look.
Israel has now returned 195 bodies as part of the ceasefire deal. They are so badly decomposed that just a quarter have been identified. A grisly and heart-rending job for the local forensics team. With all Gaza's specialist labs destroyed by war, they must do the job by hand. Doctors say many of the bodies bear signs of torture, abuse, and execution. This man died blindfolded. Another with his hands bound behind his back.
There was decomposition in the bodies. There were also gunshots on the chest and head, in addition to fractures in the skull and legs.
Nida has found her father's body. She can't believe what she's seeing.
The bodies were mutilated and showed clear signs of torture, including my father, whose arms were amputated, with torture marks on his legs. He was in terrible condition, so I had to identify him from his clothes, his teeth, and an old scar on his forehead.
Imagine witnessing a parent's corpse looking like that, knowing that it's been tortured like that. And that's just one anecdote, one story, one woman who had to witness her father's body in that type of condition. Now there are literal teenagers, Palestinian teenagers who have experienced the torture. They've seen the torture firsthand. And the 15-year-old that you're about to hear from in this PBS NewsHour piece, it's not a TikTok video, Hillary. It's not a TikTok video. He's going to explain how he was not only arrested 3 separate times without charge. While he was detained, he saw horrors that he's about to describe. Take a look at that.
Adel, whose name we've changed to protect his identity, is just 15. He's been arrested 3 times since he was 13, and last year was shot in the legs by an Israeli soldier, needing multiple surgeries. He says after October 7th, the child managers meant to monitor their treatment in jail were dismissed, and new guards raided their cells nightly.
They took us out to the yard and went into the cells, where they took all our clothes and left nothing. Later, they started invading the adult department, where they beat and tortured them. One prisoner was sick, and the other prisoners started calling for a doctor to help him. But the guards came inside and started hitting him to wake him up. Instead of getting a doctor, they beat him up. He died.
Yeah. Modern day Nazis. Modern day Nazis. Oh, is that offensive? Let me keep going then. So that was reporting from last month. But now there's been a new UN report in regard to torture that's being used as a weapon of war by the Israelis. This is one of the headlines covering it. Israel has de facto state policy of organized torture, says UN report. Committee highlights allegations including dog attacks and sexual violence, which we have actually seen on surveillance footage, raising concern about impunity for war crimes. Well, Israel has always been met with impunity because unfortunately, Israel has complete control of the US government. And as a result, the US government continues to provide cover for Israel's war crimes at the UN, especially when there are UN Security Council votes to sanction Israel, and the US immediately comes in and vetoes it. So let's get into the details of this report and what it indicates. And is this a lengthy enough video for Hillary Clinton, or is this also considered short form TikTok misinformation? So the report, the UN Committee on Torture expressed deep concern over allegations of repeated severe beatings, dog attacks, electrocution, waterboarding, use of prolonged stress positions, and sexual violence. The report also said that Palestinian detainees were humiliated by being made to act like animals or being urinated on, were systematically denied medical care and subject to excessive use of restraints, in some cases resulting in amputation. Now, let me ask you guys something. I'm genuinely curious. Those accounts like stopantisemitism.com think that people like Miss Rachel are causing hatred in this country. Oh, the anti-Semitism is a result of people like Miss Rachel humanizing Palestinian children who have lost their limbs as a result of Israel's atrocities in Gaza. I would argue, though, that maybe Israel's actions are the problem here. Just curious what you all think, because you read more details about this report and what human rights activists in Israel have to say. And how do you deny it? And this is why every time I find myself on a debate with some pro-Israel person, these days it's usually a 2v1 situation, as it was today on Piers Morgan's show. I just love it. I love it. They always have like 2 or 3 pro-Israel people and then me. And I still crush them. You wanna know why? I'm not some amazing debater. I'm not a genius. There's nothing special about me at all. I just care about the truth. And when you have the truth on your side, your debate skills don't matter. And they just keep repeating and regurgitating the exact same ridiculous arguments. Their debate muscle has totally atrophied. They're fatigued. They don't know what to do. Because for the longest time, due to the fact that our media here would serve as gatekeepers, protecting the Israelis and their narrative, they've never really had to be confronted with actual arguments. Now that they are, they never have a response other than just denying it or blaming Hamas. Like it's really amazing stuff. So this part of the report was, you know that it was happening, you know that it's still happening, but it's still hard to read about it. So the UN report draws attention to the high proportion of children who are currently detained without charge or on remand. Noting the age of criminal responsibility imposed by Israel is 12 years old, 12. and that children younger than 12 have also been detained. It's sick. This is so sick. And of course, people have died. The report reveals that 75 Palestinians have died in detainment over the last 2 years of this genocide. And it also found the death toll to be abnormally high and appears to have exclusively affected the Palestinian detainee population. It notes that to date, no state officials have been held responsible or accountable for such deaths. And that's one of the greatest injustices. I mean, when you see that these individuals who are carrying out such vile acts are met with impunity, it makes you want to give up, but you can't give up. You can't, because allowing this to stand, being an ally to a country that carries this out, is not a good look for America, for our country, for the American people. And I know that most Americans are waking up to this, and that's what has people like Hillary Clinton so upset. So that's what gives me a little bit of hope, because as you read these devastating stories, and in my darkest moments when I feel like there is no hope, there's never going to be justice, let's move on, I just remember the fact that there are Americans across the political spectrum who are finally waking up to what's going on here. So Israel also slaughtered yet another journalist in Gaza. By the way, they're still not allowing international journalists into the Gaza Strip to do independent reporting. The only journalists who are allowed in are absolute suckers who are being led by IDF soldiers. But nonetheless, they have killed a photojournalist by the name of Mahmoud Wadi, whose life was robbed from him by IDF soldiers carrying out a drone strike on his tent. Dropsite News reports that Wadi was known for his drone footage on social media that showed everyone the extent of the destruction in the Gaza Strip. So clearly the Israelis were not happy about that. And he also showed just the massive tent encampments that have taken over Gaza as a result of nearly every residential building being destroyed. And I want you to hear from Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com, kind of presenting this story and giving you more details about it. Take a look.
So a Palestinian photojournalist was killed by an Israeli drone attack in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza on Tuesday as the IDF continues to violate the US-backed ceasefire deal. Mahmoud Wadi was known for his drone photography, and he was killed while in an area outside of the Israeli-controlled side of the Yellow Line, medical sources told Turkey's Anadolu agency. And that's what family members said as well. His father must have been nearby. He described what it felt like when the strike hit his tent. And you see this picture here from his funeral. He has the press vest. So this is Wadi's father, Issam. He told Anadolu, quote, "I never expected to lose Mahmoud, who is not just my son, but a friend, as he grew up in a photography studio. Mahmoud was photographing in a safe area, but the Israelis respect no pledges or promises. Their entire life is treachery and deceit."
Imagine witnessing your own son getting killed by a drone strike in his tent. The Israeli military has killed over 260 journalists and media workers in Gaza over the past 2 years in what is the deadliest conflict, genocide, for journalists in modern history. And that's not TikTok, Hillary. Again, that's real life. In addition to that, the Associated Press reported that the Israeli military killed another Palestinian near the Bourji near a refugee camp in central Gaza. Okay, so there is no ceasefire. They just wanted us to stop talking about it. And I'm not going to do that. We're going to keep talking about it, and we're going to keep covering these atrocities. And Larry Ellison can go ahead and buy TikTok. But the fact of the matter is, you can't really change people's minds by trying to silence them and trying to silence people they trust to do accurate reporting on what's happening right now. And I'll just end on one more data point, because I don't want this to be memory hold. Remember when Israeli publications obtained leaked IDF data about the casualties in Gaza? If you do remember, great. If you don't, let me remind you. Israeli army database suggests at least 83% of Gaza dead were civilians. That was reported by 972 magazine. That's an Israeli paper. Classified intelligence for May reveals Israel believed it had killed some 8,900 militants in its attacks on Gaza, indicating a portion of civilian slaughter with few parallels in modern warfare, a joint investigation finds. Hillary Clinton is a depraved, pathetic, sad individual. She lost both presidential bids because people can see through her. One of the most shameful things I've ever done is allow myself to cast a ballot for her in 2016 when I didn't really need to. You know, living in California, why would I vote for that person? I'm being nice here. I want to use other words, but I won't. I allowed myself to be so afraid of Trump that I cast a ballot for Hillary Clinton when I didn't need to. And I feel a lot of shame about that.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.